I don't really have any comments. I'm just here to listen and learn and just be participatory. That's it. So as a member of the,
Just
environmental
curious,
committee.
you mentioned PTA at, which level?
So I'm at the, my daughter's at Hoover. I'm on the PTA there with the environmental team there, but I'm also with the PTA council. So with the environmental initiatives committee there. So I coordinate with all the presidents to have environmental initiatives committees within their school. That's growing, so the momentum is happening, so yeah.
I feel like everyone's looking to me to say something. Welcome. I'm glad you came. Is there anything at all you want to share with us or any ideas about kind of working together? Oh,
Oh, now she's muted.
Yeah, now you're muted. But, hear you now.
yeah, the audio is a little odd, huh? Sometimes you can't hear me. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, but
Okay.
anyway, like I was saying, like we had attendees, but none of their hands were raised for public comment. So,
Okay.
oh, I guess we have one. Okay,
Okay, I'm unmuted. Hi, so it's Anna Maria Johnson from Mount Lebanon School Board. I'm filling in for Melinda Burdick. I don't know if she let anyone know. Just so you're aware, but I know she gave me a few talking points, I guess, based on a previous meeting. But I can wait to bring those up if you don't want to talk about them right at this moment, or if you would like me to, I can let you know.
We
I
just
think-
have, I'll just run through the order of the agenda, if that's all right, which is
Yeah, that's fine.
Yep, in. The next thing on here is approval of the August 2023 minutes. Anyone like to make a motion? Yeah. Right, got David make the motion. Second, okay. And then next is junior board member liaison report. So I don't know if it's your first meeting, right?
It is.
Yeah, do you want to just introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Julia. I'm a senior at Mount Lebanon High School. About this. And I'm just super excited to learn as I'm here.
Great, yeah, welcome. All right, and then next is school board liaison report, so you're up.
Hello. Can you hear me okay? Great. Melinda asked me to relay that she requested our facilities person look at the effectiveness of our recycling efforts in the school. And we're not in a place right now to consider composting. And she said that with Dr. Freeze walking with students at all 7 schools, her attention is on sidewalk and traffic safety right now. And I know she's been invited to meet with the municipal leaders about that. So Dr. Freeze will be following up with them. And she mentioned that the sustainability website is not yet updated. And those were her 4 comments.
Great.
Thank you for joining us, Anna Marie. Anna Marie.
You're welcome. Hi, Mindy.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too, from afar.
All right, next we'll go into ESB business. So for our 2023 work plan, first is air quality.
Okay, that's me. So I'm just now. And it looks like all but 3 are running. And they are all within 5 degrees of each other, so they're working properly now, which is good. So I guess the next question for me is, we had discussed maybe putting together a dashboard so that residents and students could see what's going on specifically in our area. And in fact, a report just came out today about some of the top emitting polluters in southwestern PA, well, across Pennsylvania, but they were looking specifically at southwestern PA. And the site in the steel rolling site in Bridgeville was on the list as being really, really high. And when we smell things here in Mount Lebanon, it's often from that plant in Bridgeville because it's, you know, right upwind of us. So I was just wondering, you know, we could set up a dashboard, and if things were spiking, we could look and see, you know, try to explain what's going on, whether it's wildfires or local pollution or just pollution coming from another source. But I guess I would be interested in learning from the rest of you where you would like to take it from here now that the monitors are working.
I mean, I think we talked about this in other meetings. I think there'd be a lot of value in trying to partner with like high school, our students.
Yeah, Mike was really interested in that, yeah.
I know that I was an Apex student last year and they did a lot of work about air quality, and that was part of one of our units. And we actually went to some of the creeks and we would test, you know, stuff like water there. And I know Dr. Gullo is one of the teachers, but I think that it could be something that they could factor in to their curriculum so that students could understand what's going on in their community as well.
So I guess.
What was the name of that class, did you just say?
AP Environmental Geoscience.
Oh, okay, great, thank you.
So I guess maybe I should talk to Mike first and see if he's interested in this. I mean, there might be a cost associated with putting together a dashboard. Or if there's students savvy enough who could maybe look into doing this. I don't know that it's that hard. I mean, it could be as easy as a spreadsheet with some volunteers who keep track of what's going on and are looking into things when they're off. So I guess we would need.
So that. Don't know how much they charge.
Am I
Yeah.
allowed to ask a question?
Yeah.
There is a website called Smell PGH, and that's the one that I always check for air quality, like when over the
That's an
summer.
app from
is it-
Carnegie Mellon.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that doesn't record the purple air monitoring that you guys have here in the municipality.
It's a separate, it records, it's crowdsourcing people's report smells. And so they populate a map. And so when you see a whole lot of people reporting smells in a specific neighborhood, you can then look into what the air quality is around that neighborhood.
Okay.
If they do have some air quality, I know
Carnegie Mellon was working on some low-cost sensors. Not all of them have been destroyed yet. But if you're seeing data on there, then that's probably what it's from,
Yeah.
rather than the Purple Air system that is here.
There's another national site that I have, because I know I was scared, but I was checking, for all the fires at the beginning of the summer, and there was another site that I was checking that was more of a national air quality.
Air now.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's also-
and that also does that track?
So that's a little different. So Purple Air, there's no quality control. Obviously. But the Air Now and then the partner site, which I'm blanking on the name of, integrates the data from in Allegheny County, it's the Allegheny County Health Department is responsible for maintenance and monitoring of the air quality sensors that have very rigorous quality control, quality assurance.
Usually EPA.
Yeah, so the EPA has delegated it to certain agencies, and in this case, the health department has it. So that's, and then the rest of it's modeled. So you'll notice that there's no place without a monitor, without data.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's just not the way things work. It's aggregated and then, modeled and used.
However, I was just gonna say, being someone who works in communications with citizen scientists who are learning air quality and want to be on top of, for example, what's coming out of the Claritin plan or what's coming out of the Shell plan. We don't have to take such a deep dive into all this, rigorous monitoring. We can use ramps, we can use EPA monitors, we can check them against Purple Air, which is often different than what the EPA is saying, but at least you learn the movement of the air quality and the pollution, and you can usually identify the sources. So if it's just a learning tool, I think that if we could come up with something with the high school students, that would work
Yeah.
with that. Does that make sense?
No, I'm just
I
saying.
was thinking as far as like data usage and analysis. It'd be great to partner with students who would be actively,
Yeah,
able to do something and have time to do something with the data. But I do think like your questions there are really valid. And could we just put something on the municipal website that at least alerts people that we have this technology? You can go to the Purple Air site, and not necessarily even have anything on our own website, but like direct them to inform them that we have the monitors and here's where you can check into it if you want to.
right.
Cause I know there was a magazine article and, there's some talk about it, but I don't know that everybody really knows, or at least would think, unless maybe they're on the municipal website to look there.
No, I think it'd be valuable to at least start the conversation.
It's actually a plugin that you can put onto the website.
Yeah.
But was there any resolution on the position of those monitors?
Some of them were moved. So the municipal building and the public works monitors are up. They switched out the rec center. But there was a electrical problem with the outlet there and the Wi-Fi wasn't reaching to that spot, so they're moving it. As for the 4 at the school districts, those are the ones that he said they're still working to get up and running. So I don't know if they've moved them or not. Is there a problem
I
with
meant
the location?
elevation.
Oh, the
We never
elevation
knew-
of
We
them.
never found out where they're located. And what they're really monitoring, they're monitoring the ambient air that the students are breathing at the
Yeah.
lower level, or they put them on a flagpole somewhere and they're actually measuring what's mixing in further up.
That's a good question. I will check into that.
Anything else, Deb?
Nope.
All right. So next here is plastic bag reduction. So this is the topic I was leading, and I did some additional researching, trying to, look around to see what other communities are doing. And I know we talked at past meetings about should we outright ban it? You know, that's coming to the Pittsburgh area. Anyway, we could tag along with that. That seemed a little bit maybe concerning and like some hesitancy to just implement an outright ban right away. So I was looking around to see if other places are doing other things and there's a lot out there on, you know, just trying to take other actions to reduce plastic, you know, not even just bags, but water bottles and all kinds of plastic. So I thought maybe as a first step, we could do it as like phase one. Make a strong commitment, you know, maybe through like a resolution. And I was gonna ask Mindy and Greg if you guys know like what that procedure, if that's like an appropriate way to go about it, but if we went that way, and got, you know, commission support and had something with a real commitment to reduction, and then paired that with like education, some other actions or like incentives. We've talked about a lot of educational ways we could, you know, through the website, the YouTube that Mike's doing, magazine, we could do an event at the library. I think there's a lot of avenues for education on how people can reduce, you know, in their homes and around the community. And then other actions, you know, I looked at what other communities are doing there, that, you know, they'll have like plastic-free events or like plastic cleanup days. We could take a look. I don't know if there's any funding, but like do a review where the water bottle fillers, do we need more? Can we map those out for the people in the community so they know where they are and maybe they use them more often? So things like that. Incentives I found really difficult. I was really having a hard time finding ways to incentivize people to do this. I mean, some communities give out reusable bags. Beyond that, I had a really hard time finding any other good ideas to like get people to want to do this. So if anybody has any suggestions there.
Would something like, I know like a lot of places have done like even having stores charge like 5 cents as like an incentive for people to switch, and found that like most plastic bag usage goes away even with like a nickel charge.
Yeah, and that's.
Europe does that too.
So that is one thought I did have. I mean, but that would, and we could certainly, I think, do that, go to the businesses and ask them to do that as part of this phase one, and maybe a couple would do it, and it would get people at least thinking about it. Because my thought was then, if we can get people engaged, then in a year or two, you know, maybe you move towards a ban, and at that point, then it is, you know, no plastic bags, or you get charged everywhere. But I think if that's the first step, it would be a little bit of a shock, you know, whereas maybe kind of easing into it might be better. But
I think you're right about the phased approach. I think if we were to encourage a fee, that might cause problems. If we mandated a fee, which I agree is further down the line.
yeah,
That way the businesses have deniability. Sorry. It's not our fault.
right.
No,
Good, you're right. I wondered that, like, I don't go to the mall often, but I went recently and Old Navy, I was like shocked that they asked me how many bags I wanted to buy, which I just was surprised. I thought it was great, but like all the other stores did not. So I mean, that must be something, I guess, in their corporate policy they're doing. And yeah, maybe some people were, I thought it was nice. You're right that some people were probably really annoyed by it or not liking it, but I guess my thought too is that can't hurt to ask them. And if they want to be like, hey, we're a great business, we want to do this, you know, give them the choice, but.
Yeah, I think in the meantime, like maybe some food for thought to kind of get started on like a reduction / recycling is, I know local businesses have those, it's like little sheds out front where you can drop your plastic bags. And I haven't done much thinking or research into it. I don't know where they go or how they're recycled, but I mean, apparently they are emptied every once in a while, and every time I get a plastic bag from a store, and they go back in there, they go back in the recycling, so
You
that
wonder
could be
where they
something.
go.
That could be something that could be looked into to say, you know, if they are actually recycled, is that something that we could possibly look into as a, you know, not as a municipal thing, but maybe an encouragement, say, hey, there are locations if you did not know, so, but
Part of the education piece, like.
part of the education piece.
I wonder what the contamination rate is. Because if they are being recycled, great. But if they're only being recycled as long as the entire bin is absolutely pure. Then,
Cause I know it's like grocery bags are usually not as contaminated as like takeout bags and, you know, other.
well, I'm thinking much more pessimistically if they're outside, somebody walking by and saying.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just gonna throw this random piece of trash in here.
Very true. It's, yeah, that's, again, that's just kind of food for thought in the meantime of something that could be looked into, because I have seen them, I've seen them in the area and I was kind of surprised as. When I was living at home with my parents, my dad always had a use for them, but when I got my own house, I was like, I have 500 of these plastic bags and I don't wanna just throw them away, so. I was at one of the grocery stores and I saw they were recycling, so. I talked to one of the people that I knew that worked there, and they said that they do get recycled from what they know, so.
Yep.
But obviously from what people tell you is not always the fact, so, but just some food for thought. Just some general food for thought there.
What about like an incentive? So I'm, just kind of think this is just gonna apply for businesses only, but the ESB probably would have to partner with a nonprofit, maybe Green Lebo. And Green Lebo could offer green certification. You are a Lebo green business. And here are the 3 things that you need to do to get that way. Charge 5 cents per single-use bags. Offer, I don't know, whatever else we want to kind of incentivize, or just one thing maybe to get started. And then they get a nice little decal to put on their window for their business, something. Just because you asked for incentives, I was trying to think.
Yeah, and I hadn't honestly been thinking at all about incentivizing the businesses, but that's a good point. Could be helpful. And we do have, and I sent this out a while ago, I was going back through my emails. Andrew, before he moved off this board, he drafted a municipal, like a community-wide ban. So I do have the language for that, and I was reading back through it again before this to kind of refresh myself in it. I think it's something that we should like strive to get to, but and when that time, comes, we have language ready to go, or that could just be maybe updated, so. But that's my recommendation, I guess, to everybody, is that we hold on that now and decide whether everybody's on board with, like a resolution or some commitment to actually doing these things we're talking about, trying to get the community engaged and reducing as a first step.
Ever come across any grants that would support for any business that decides to make this commitment early? And I'm thinking plastic bags, but I'm also thinking things like styrofoam.
I personally haven't come across any grants. That's something I could look into. And I know with Eric that with him working with businesses and things like that, I can definitely kind of reach out to him to see if he knows of any, gold mines of those specific gold mines, grants and things like that. So, but yeah, I can look into that.
I guess the other question I would have too is maybe like, and you don't have to answer this now, but something to think about, is there a way that we could work with even students to do things around the high school, to either education or actions that we could take at the high school level to 100%. Yeah.
I know personally, a lot of kids are interested, like, a lot of the things in the lunchroom, a lot of the waste in the lunch.
Mindy, I don't know if you are still there. You can hear us. Your picture's gone. But
The audio was cutting out, unfortunately. I'm so sorry. I heard nothing of the last couple minutes.
well, my question for you is what, like, if we decided as, you know, the board, we wanted to draft a resolution, is that something that like we could bring to the commission? Propose?
Yeah, definitely. I encourage you to write, you know, possible resolutions, draft ordinances. Usually for resolutions, that's like a statement of support, as you know, but there's often something tied to it, like what's the intention behind it. So we're writing resolutions, we'd like to reduce plastic. Why and how? There has to be some other research done along with the resolution. Otherwise, we're just kind of saying some empty words, and want to try to avoid that because it looks bad, and then our next resolution doesn't have as much meat behind it. So like our climate resolution, we have the climate action plan, the cap that we're working on and
Right.
still working on, you know.
Yeah, and that's actually one spot where I got a little bit stuck too, because I was thinking if we went the resolution path, I think I looked at maybe our climate resolution, and that it does have specific, like almost targets or goals to
Yes.
achieve. Like I also got stumped here, like how do we actually set a measurable target here? Or does it have to be measurable? Or do we just say, we're going to educate, we're going to, you know, hold events, like list specific things? Or do we have to say, we are going to reduce by X percent?
Yeah, it seems premature, in my opinion, to do a resolution because we
Okay.
don't have the momentum behind it yet. We don't have, like you said, the goals or even like the how we would do it. But I don't want to discourage.
Sure, yeah, I mean, and if we could define those, are you saying we should define that, have the resolution, or we should get the community going and then do the resolution? Like start some of the education and then do it?
Mostly a plan on how you're going, what you want to do with plastic ban. So is your end goal a ban? Is your end goal a reduction by how much?
Yep.
And then the moment, you know, and then the resolution can maybe help start some of that.
Okay. That's good direction, because I think we could do that over the course of, you know, the next 6 months or so, actually start to define what those actions would be.
Great.
Well, if anybody has any ideas in that category, send them over my way and I can look at example resolutions too and see if I can come back in the next meeting with, you know, these are kind of the categories of things we'd have to fill in to make this happen.
With the city of Pittsburgh, with them banning, have they incentivized their, like, I think that's a big statement for them to make, like, what are they doing, you know? Or have you researched them?
I don't know, actually,
And it applies to, does it only apply to grocery stores or does it apply to?
I think it's everything, but that's a good question. Yeah.
I say ride them. Make a statement, you do it, yeah, it's an opportunity.
Yeah. I'll check into some of that.
Rainbow green.
Yeah.
We're very supportive of it, so, yeah.
Good, hopefully you can help us partner on some of these
Yeah,
education
we would
and
love to.
other things, okay. All right. Moving through the agenda, next is recycling facility tour, recycling and composting. Do you know, Greg, do we have any?
Haven't heard anything from Jen. I just think possibly something for next month, so.
And then similarly, since Mike's not here, I don't know if we have anything tonight on education website.
I do.
Okay.
Mike sent me a little tidbit that he has some students that are willing to write some newsletters on some topics. Such as how a change in diet and benefit, sorry, he was probably typing this very quickly. I don't want to critique him, but there was a number of grammatical errors, sorry, Mike. How a change in diet and benefit human health and the environment. I'm assuming that's how a change in diet can benefit the human health and the environment. Another one is plastic reduction. Another one's gray water sink. Plastic repurposing and composting, recycling, repurposing, and glass recycling and repurposing. So he said he's also looking for 7 more students. For, I guess, 7 more topics to make that 12 months of newsletter, so. I guess he's finally using his powers, his teacher powers to get some students to write some educational articles, things like that, so.
Those articles will be in the magazine.
They could be, we're currently working with our PIO on some things we can implement, but we have a web page on, or I should say, it's a page within the master website or whatever you want to call it. So it's a sustainability page. So we're thinking about putting a lot of that and housing that there. So it's kind of there forever. Because in the magazine, it'll be issued a month. And some people just, it kind of goes to the wayside for some people. So with that, it can be on that webpage and housed there. So, but we're working through that, how to kind of distribute that stuff right now, but.
And if he'd like another set of eyes for peer review sort of thing, then
Awesome, perfect.
The school district knows, like the communications team with the school district, would you communicate that to them as well?
I think we, absolutely would love to do that. I'm not entirely sure if we have yet. I think Mike has been working on some school aspects, and I think with you joining now, which is great, he said he'll be able to attend in November, so he won't be here next month either, but we can kind of get an email chain going. I think that's why I have to get your email to add you to the chain. Yeah, we'll get some conversation going and then kind of see where he can take it and run with that, so.
Good. Stormwater ordinance update. All right, and then energy benchmarking. Did we lose Tim?
Don't think we do. We still have the same amount of panelists, so.
Yeah, so there's no update since the last meeting. I guess the question is whether we would want to try to benchmark Mount Lebanon's energy usage through Connect, through like a collective energy benchmarking effort through Connect, or if we would want to do something on our own. And I believe my recommendation from the last meeting was that it would be better to do that through something like Energy Star, rather than through like ICLEI, which was the software that we had sort of been using when we developed the climate action plan. So I don't know if that's something we want to talk about tonight, or if that's something that we want to mull over still.
when you say energy benchmarking, is this along the lines of a greenhouse gas inventory sort of thing?
Yes. And primarily from like a municipal standpoint, it's a little bit harder to do from a private business or residential standpoint. Just because you really can't enforce anything unless you have laws about energy usage as a whole for the community. But in this case, it would be trying to establish a benchmark for what our greenhouse gas emissions are now, and to use that as a resource to move forward with any energy saving agenda items later on. But if you don't know how much greenhouse gas you're emitting now, you can't really set any goals. So, but the question was whether or not we would establish that benchmark by using a program such as the Energy Star community portfolio, or whether we would work through Connect to establish more of a regional energy benchmark. The difference being that the Connect version would be probably with some assistance from the Green Building Alliance, and the 2030 district, but it would not give us as much of a regional energy benchmark. Or it would give us more of a regional and not as much of a local energy benchmark, I mean to say.
And would that be something that we're hiring a consultant for, or is that gonna land on someone's desk? Someone.
I don't think that that would be something that a volunteer. I mean, we could see, I mean, we developed the climate action plan, all volunteer, but it would be a pretty decent effort. It definitely takes some, it will take a lot of research and information.
Right, no, I'm actually thinking it would almost certainly be a contractor.
Yes.
So I can add, go ahead.
I was gonna say the Green Building Alliance, they track, as long as you give them like data from the buildings, they track it for you. I don't think you have to actually have a separate consultant, but you have to give them the data.
Okay. That's just for buildings,
Yeah,
so that's only.
they would only be the building
Part of the
aspect of it, so that would be the, yeah.
So kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but if we put things in our site, like a greenhouse gas inventory, it could possibly become a capital expense, and we can put that in the capital improvement plan where that could be needed as a, you know, a consultant or something like that. So that is something that we've definitely eyed up.
Do you know how much we paid for our last one? I don't know. I don't remember what the date is on it. I just remember seeing it in the share drive. So I know there is one.
Yeah, cause I'm meeting with Eric Robb actually with Connect on Wednesday. So I can kind of talk a little bit more about that to see, cause he mentioned to me that they were working on some stuff, especially with the ICLEI software. So we'll see where he's kind of at with that, but I know just from working with the Sustainable PA certification, in order to achieve platinum, we would need a greenhouse gas inventory, and that's one of the, there's obviously the list of like 100 criteria, but then there's kind of like a 12, part of the platinum is like 12 specific things that you have to have in order to get it. So greenhouse gas inventory is one of those. So again, kind of going back, if we were to go for platinum and invest in a inventory, it could become a capital expense, it could become a, you know, a type of budget amount that we look at, but it's definitely something we would look forward to. Maybe we can kind of build a foundation with something like ICLEI or the Green or Energy Star. So, but yeah, it's definitely something that we're looking forward to.
Tim, did you say you have a recommendation for one of those two paths to take?
I think that the Energy Star would be a better system for tracking in terms of trying to get a more community wide basis for it, but it also kind of depends on, like, if we are hiring an outside consultant to do this, you know, it would kind of be on it would be their recommendation of what programs that they would recommend for this. If they use ICLEI, if they use Energy Star, if they use something else that's proprietary. So I don't know if I was necessarily thinking about hiring a consultant, but that does kind of change it changes the dynamic a little bit. And then the other recommendation was whether or not we would go and do this just for ourselves, which if we are planning to use this as a basis for earning some points towards the getting that platinum certification, then we would probably not be able to combine our efforts with Connect as much, because we would want to see Mount Lebanon's specific data, not just the regional data.
Yeah. I would support either approach. I think that we probably have the bandwidth to get it done maybe a little faster if we do it on our own, than connect, but that, let me know Greg, what you find out tomorrow.
And it'd be interesting to hear too, Greg, what the time frame is, if it's something we're going for gold now and platinum next, does that mean that that is far off? In the,
Yeah,
plan?
it really depends, cause I know, with platinum, or I should say with gold, we exceeded the gold criteria by a lot. It's just those those required necessities to have on those, like the foundation, that's kind of the long-term planning, like there's a greenhouse, don't quote me on it, but there's a greenhouse gas inventory. I think there's another tracking, I can't remember exactly what it is right now, but it's a tracking system of some sorts, and it's pretty intense. And the other thing too is I would like to do it right. That's just me. I think staff would agree with that. We wouldn't want to do it right. We wouldn't just want to do, just say, hey, we have it just to have it and not do anything with it. We would want to have it and be able to act upon stuff like that. So, time frame, not entirely sure. I know that with the criteria, the hundreds of criteria that we meet exceed gold. I think there's only a couple things to kind of button up to get to platinum, but it's those big foundational pieces that is kind of the biggest hurdle. But again, something to look forward to in the next coming years.
Yeah, and I assume if you don't do it right, as you say, then you lose the platinum in the next cycle, and that's definitely not good.
Yeah, I think they're good for 4 years, 4 or 5 years each certification. But I think with the new the way they're doing it for the new reassessment is that you can go in every year and update something. So if, for example, you have a certain document that was required for a certification level, and you renewed it for some reason, you can go in there and it's now like a living, it's not stagnant. So I would like to be on top of that, because just saying that you get a certification every 5 years may be good, but to stay up on that and take the initiative to do things, I think speaks a little louder. So.
Tim, did you have anything else on that, or do you want to explore the different paths a little bit more and talk about it again in the next meeting?
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I don't have anything else to add today.
All right, now we're down to standing items. Climate action plan, community focus groups. Any updates on that?
So we know the comprehensive plan consultants are looking to, I guess, produce a 90% completion of the comprehensive plan, I think in October, early October, mid-October. I can't remember the exact timeline. We've been meeting with focus groups about some things. We've talked about the recommendations, some of the recommendations that the comprehensive plan consultants have put forward to us. And yeah, I definitely think there's a lot of actionable items in there. From what the surveys came back from, what they're recommending, it's going to be a good amount of quote unquote marching orders. So it's I guess more to come, and we'll see what happens in October. I can't remember the exact date. It's slipping me right now, but yeah, they're targeting it's the 90% completion, and at that point, it goes through like a review phase for public, so people can look at it. I think it will go to the commission, and then it's required, I think, a 45-day hearing period. That's what I think it is. So we have it in October, and then I guess December 12th. So whatever the dates line up from 45 days from, I think, December 12th, because that's what we're targeting for targeting for an adoption date on that meeting in December. So, but I'm excited to see what comes from it.
So the minutes from the last meeting, I wasn't here, but it says that the updated climate action plan is awaiting comprehensive plan complete. Is that like first step is complete comprehensive plan, and then there will be action on the climate action plan?
It's, I would say it's a, it's kind of a not a domino effect, but it sort of is. So once the comprehensive plan is complete, we can see that this is what's recommendation, or this is what's recommended, so we can kind of tailor the climate action plan a little bit more precisely. So yeah, there's some more to come, but in the next coming months, I think we can talk about the next steps and maybe the climate action plan a little bit further, once we have the recommendations from the comprehensive plan saying, this is what we think we should do with, you know, what the recommendations come from surveys and things like that, so. But I do have an update that I can talk about in new business as well, so. As we're talking about the, just a previous, the duties, tasks and goals of each board because of the board transitions they're doing in April. But I can talk more of that when we get there, so.
And then anything else on the certification framework?
Just working on to get that completed. Like I mentioned with the energy benchmarking stuff. I won't rehash it, but yeah, gotta get that goal this year, which is nice, and then. Obviously keep growing and shoot for the platinum, but there's multiple planning functions that come into that with. You know, you're gonna have to possibly spend some money to get some things done, so, but we'll see. We'll definitely see once we get that done.
And I think you mentioned before, what was the time frame that you're aiming for?
Originally was the summertime, but CIP was definitely a time consuming document. But I would say targeted most certainly by the end of this year, I'm hoping possibly by next month. Really interesting, but time consuming. So,
Then you just gave a comprehensive plan update, right? Nothing else there?
I have nothing else. If Mindy has anything for the comp plan, then feel free, but other than that.
Yeah, I'm not on that. I'm one of the commissioners that are on that plan, so I don't have an update on it. Sorry.
You're up next, Mindy. Do you have any commission business to report?
Yeah, we did pass the sidewalk policy that was started in the ESB board. I think a year and a half ago, maybe you guys started working on it. And in January or February, sent it to the commission. It got revised somewhat significantly, but the core pieces of some of the metrics and how to prioritize the sidewalk requests stayed consistent, as well as the idea that residents can request a sidewalk, and that will go to the mobility board. And the mobility board will use those metrics to try to help prioritize those requests and then send those over for requests for funding to the commission. And so, as you guys, or most of you know, but some of you are new, we have a sidewalk policy in place right now. It was written in 2013, and unfortunately it has not been effective to help residents get sidewalks in if they want a sidewalk. Now, of course, you could put a sidewalk in if you want at any time, if you don't currently have one, in front of your house. That's a permitting process, and then you pay to go ahead and put that sidewalk in. That just takes care of the sidewalk right in front of your house. That does not provide a continuous sidewalk on an entire block or help our safe walking routes. So what this policy is trying to do is give residents a path forward to work together to get a sidewalk installed on their block. And if they're able to do that and able to work together and bring that request to the municipality is going to pay 90% of the installation costs for that sidewalk. So any questions so far? I just said a lot. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna ask, because last last time we talked about this last month, you had said that certain streets were already selected.
Yes, okay, so that's,
I
yeah.
thought at least past that point.
Okay, good. So that's the, yeah, that's the second part. So, the policy was passed and right now we only need 25% in the current policy of the residents in a certain area to sign a petition, and that will kind of get it in the queue and take it to the mobility board. So that's one of the changes from the prior sidewalk policy that's in place right now. In a parallel path to that, in addition to that, the commission can just put sidewalks in wherever the commission does by ordinance, and it's not relevant if the residents are asking for it or not. So the commission has been asking to improve. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, okay. The commission has been asking to improve some of our safe walks. You can't hear me? Oh. Okay, I'm gonna speak up a little bit, but I doubt.
Mindy, I can hear you, Mindy.
Oh, okay, awesome. I was losing a lot of audio this evening, so that's why I'm paranoid about that.
Oh, I can hear you now. I can hear you now.
Oh, you can hear me now? Okay, the audio is awful today. I'm gonna send a note to the manager to have someone look into what's going on in this room. So I'm so sorry.
Let's have the internet cut out today, so there could be a disconnect somewhere.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, maybe something didn't get rebooted properly. I don't really know. So there are 5 streets that the commission authorized our engineering firm to evaluate how much it would cost to put a sidewalk in there. Let me get that list real quick. And they came back to us and for sidewalks in all 5 of those streets, and they were selected because they are streets that are on popular walking routes to schools that don't have continuous sidewalks. It's $2 million if we would go ahead and put sidewalks in on all 5 of those areas. I'm just off the top of my head, it's Greenhurst, Lakemont, Woodland, part of Sleepy Hollow, and Kelso. I can't find the report in front of me. So all of that will be on this year's budget discussions. There's 4 to 5 total budget discussions. They start in October. And so the commission will look at that again, but we did have a public discussion that you can tune into if you want to see exactly what segments of sidewalks are being proposed to go in there. And now we just have to find the money, which we probably won't be able to find the money for all 2 million in this year for 2020, this budget cycle, which is for 2024. But I'd personally like to really make a big dent in it.
I know a lot of very happy people on Woodland that are excited about that.
Good. I hope we can continue to make them happy.
Including me, who lives on Woodland. So we just had our block party on Woodland last week. Of course, there were people trying to cut through around the blockade for the block party. It was really,
Oh my gosh.
it was really horrible. The kids are riding everywhere. We're like, no. But it was discussed at the block party, and one of the things that seemed to be a point of confusion is, I think last month you said that we needed 100% buy-in by all the residents of the side where the sidewalks would go in. But someone who's an attorney said, no, if there is a safety issue and we can show the history of some of the safety concerns, there's a way to bypass that.
Yes, that is true. Both of those are true, and those are a big point of contention, even just among, I think, the commission. Our preference is to have 100% buy-in for many reasons, for legal reasons, and of course, you know, it would be better to do it that way. So that's what we're going to try for first in most situations, but we haven't always done that in the past. There have been times in the past, there's a precedent where the commission just says, this is what we want to do, safety issue or whatever other reason, this is where we're going to put in a sidewalk. And then it also is at the discretion of the commission if they charge the residents the 10% fee in that situation, if they weren't actually asking for the sidewalk. Right now, the sidewalk policy, as I mentioned, does charge the residents a 10% fee, and there are some options, some payment options on how to pay that if you don't want to pay it all at once up front. So I don't have an answer for you, but personally, I'm pushing very hard to move forward if there's not 100%, because like you said, that's the biggest deterrent and has been for the entire decade. We've had a sidewalk policy in place.
Mostly it's the older residents who are concerned about the maintenance of the sidewalk, but we've already assured them that we will have a team of people out there maintaining their sidewalks in bad weather.
That's
So,
wonderful.
Woodland's ready to do whatever it takes to get past that.
I love it. Let's have them be the test case. Let's do it.
Anything else, Mindy, from commissions?
That's the big one. Yeah, that's the big one. There's a lot of developments that are coming through as well, but there's always developments, just extra right now.
For covering that 10%, like what does that usually come out to for a house in terms of like how much money is that usually?
$100 to a couple $100, depending on how much sidewalk we're talking.
And that's the 10%?
Correct. Correct. Again, that's not my favorite piece of it, but the thought behind it is that we want residents to have some buy-in, and we want to prioritize blocks or areas of residents that are really committed to this. And that sort of shows a commitment. That's not my personal opinion, but that's the thought. There's a lot of requests for sidewalks. This is one way that we can kind of help prioritize those requests coming in. People are willing to put some skin in the game.
Thank you so much for your
Sure.
work on this.
All right, we're down to new business.
Just a couple items of note, Sam Smith, the resident who gives the public comment, she's like our consistent resident, she's missing from this meeting, she's at the open house, I think, at Jefferson, the middle school. So she was wondering, has the group discussed placing recycling receptacles in Uptown, at my Lebanon shops throughout the Beverly Road Business District? She was just wondering that.
Oh, I can take that one. We ordered recycling containers. They just haven't been delivered and installed yet. And there should be, we ordered an equal number of recycling receptacles as we will have trash receptacles.
Cool. She also said she recently took 2 great classes with Emily Stein from PRC at the Phipps Training Center, and she is available, Emily is available to teach citizens about sustainable practices like rain barrel use and composting. It's for the PRC, which is I can't remember, it's the Pittsburgh Recycling Coalition.
Resource Council.
Resource Council, yeah.
Pennsylvania Resource.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania So many acronyms things nowadays. But the PRC is currently schedules conservation workshops in Western PA. And Emily told Sam that she likes to work with municipalities too. Sam was thinking that Mount Lebanon could possibly host some events that subsidize the cost for residents if we have a budget or access to grants. And she said, is this something the ESB might be interested in pursuing for residents? If so, she could find out information. So I was thinking that could be one of an educational thing we could potentially put out on a website or things like that to say, hey, these are, because I know Mike was working on rain barrel and things like that, like newsletters. But that's something that we could possibly push. I'm not entirely sure with if she's like teaching, if she's charging a fee for those. I don't know if we could put that out on our, our social media, but that's something that we can talk about. I can ask the PIO, so figure that out.
Legal Green could probably help with that too.
Perfect. But those are the 2 comments from Sam. And then the only thing I have is with the board transitions that are coming in April. The Ian and then Keith were working on their, bringing that to life. And they've asked us to look at goals, duties, and tasks that each board has completed, I guess. So from what we've talked about with the air quality, the plastic bag, the recycling, the education, stormwater and energy benchmarking, I think that would be a good basis for our goals, duties, and tasks. And the only thing I would ask is I can go back and kind of write up some of the stuff that we talked over meetings, but if anyone has any other specific information, I'll send an email out to kind of remind people. I know Claire was saying that she had some stuff that she can send over, but I'm gonna send an email out to everyone. They can just give me like a quick write-up of like what you've done so far with that topic and what the eventual goal is, so then I can forward that over to Keith at the end. So that's the only ask I have, but I kind of have the general understanding of meeting notes and meeting minutes from the past, but if anyone has anything specific on those topics, I'll send that email out and you just reply to that one.
And what's the intent there? Is that to formulate what's gonna happen on the future boards?
Yeah, it pretty much, I would say it gives the boards a little bit better idea and direction. That's from what I've understood is when we have been, it can almost be when the new board is, or when the transition board is in effect, they kind of can pick up right where this board left off. So they can just take it and run with it to understand what was done, what the goals are. So we can kind of move forward with that. I know it'll be most likely Eric Milliron and myself for the new board, the resiliency board that will kind of be in and will be spearheading or co-spearheading. So.
So would that also include like the cap? Because I know that's not like a current action item, but it's obviously something we've worked a
Absolutely.
lot
Yeah,
on. I don't
absolutely.
want to let that drop either.
Absolutely. Yeah, that'll be in there.
Anybody else have any new business? Tim or Mindy, do you guys have any new business?
I don't.
Nope.
Second. Oh,
Aye.
all right.
Thanks, everyone.
You.
Thank you.
Email.
Email whenever you can.
Yeah.
My neighbor just, I was walking my dog and he was cutting his grass. It was so quiet. It was fluorescent yellow on top of it. And I said to him, because I could actually have a conversation with him. It was so quiet. I said, "That electric?" I said, "Yeah." So is that different than what you're?
So he was pushing it.
He was pushing.
Yeah, so they have like, you can have electric mowers or.
Thank you so much. I'll get you out of that group.
Yeah.
And then we'll,
Yeah.
start responding to emails with thoughts and things like
Ones
that.
that you do are ones that you don't have to,
Yeah.
So it's really
goes in.
I definitely have your email.
Okay.
There it is.
The green or.
Okay, good, perfect,
Um,
perfect, yeah.
So they'll look like that, they'll just be